Project 6, Candy Packaging. Stage 2, Working with Styles and Effects. We're going to work on our package with a logical approach. Instead of jumping around on the layout, we're going to start on one panel and proceed and work one panel at a time. We're going to use a number of tools and techniques, primarily using the advanced type options and Illustrator effects. Illustrator includes a number of effects. They are live, they are non-destructive. That means that they can be edited or removed from an object and it won't destroy the original object. Many of these options result in rasterized elements, even when you apply them to a vector object. The drop shadow, inner glow, outer glow, feather options, these are all stylizations, and they all utilize some type of graded transparency. The drop shadow creates a soft edge shadow object and it blends from the shadow color to full transparency. And to achieve this effect, the shadow has to be rasterized into pixels. Those can be reproduced to get the visual effect. The first two sides of the box require a banner type object that highlights the product name. Instead of creating a flat banner, we're going to use built-in effects to create a 3D banner that appears to wave around the box corner. We're going to create the banner in two separate pieces so that the content for each side is going to be able to be isolated when we assemble our 3D box. We need to lock and hide the background layer. I've already locked mine. I'm going to create two new layers, and those are going to be side 1 and side 2. Those need to go right above the background layer, and side 1 needs to be the active layer. We also need to turn back on the die cut, bleed, and fold guide layers. We're going to create a rectangle in the center of the left panel that is 3 3/4 inches wide and 1 inch tall. We want to position it so the rectangle's right edge aligns with the right edge of the left panel, and fill it with a dark red. Make sure your stroke is set to none, and using the Add Anchor Point tool, we're going to add an anchor point that is halfway between the corners on the left edge. And then, using the Direct Selection tool, drag that point in to create a banner look. Next, select that entire shape and find the Reflect tool. It's going to be under the Rotate tool. Click on the right side of the rectangle to move the transformation point. Then click with your mouse and hold down your Alt and your Shift key and drag to the right to create a second copy of that shape that's reflected, and line it up along that fold line. It may take you more than one try to get this moved. In the Layers panel, you want your side 1 expanded, and drag the selected art icon, that second path, up onto side 2. Double check to make sure you've moved the right one. We still want side 1 to be our active layer. We are ready to add our text now. I've zoomed in so that we can see this a little bit better. We're going to pick up our text tool next, and we want to click inside of the banner. Don't get too close to the edge or you will change the icon. You can see it turns to a text tool with a circle around it. That will turn that shape we've got into a text box. We don't want that. We want to be well inside of there, and just click to create some point type, and we're going to type in SMART. Obviously, that's a lot smaller than what we need, so let's select that and I don't have Garnet Ultra, but we do have something that we can use. You're going to look for a nice chunky piece of text. I'm going to try this. Let's change the type size to 60. I expect that everyone is going to come up with a somewhat different style font, but do change the color to white. And we are going to click this, drag this in place, and make sure that this is about 1/8 of an inch away from our center fold line. We're going to need to bring up the size a bit and right halfway between there, so I can bring this over a little bit and drop that down. Now that guideline is stuck there. So what I need to do now is view, and I'm going to unlock my guides for a moment. So I can drag this guide over, move it to approximately 1/8 of an inch there, and I can close my image trace. I don't need that anymore. I am now going to clone a copy of my text to place on the other side. Holding down my Alt key and my Shift key, I'm going to copy this and pull it over to the side so that the word, the S, lines up. And I also need to bring this up and put this up on top of side 2 so that it's visible, and I can then select my guide and delete it. I want to go back to my view and relock my guides. Now that I have my text, I'm going to zoom back out again, and we're changing the word smart to tarts. And I should have had a capital T in there, so let me back up. We are now going to put in the trademark. At the end of the word tarts, we are going to, let me park my layers because I will need that back here. Shrink that. And I'm going to put my swatches back up where my swatches belong and shrink all of this other stuff down. I think I can close that. And I want to open up my glyphs. That is going to be under Type, Glyphs, and I am looking for a trademark. And let's hope that you have this available in whichever typeface we've selected. Let's see. I don't see the trademark in here. So I'm going to show you something that will work just as well. And we are simply going to type in at the end of tarts, TM. So in place of this, I'm going to go into my characters panel. And in the menu for characters, I am going to use all small caps. So I really want to change this and use small letters. And then I am going to go back in and I am going to superscript this. Oh, I can do this right here, which is going to move that up and place it correctly. And then I can close my glyphs panel. We're also going to do a baseline shift for just those 2 letters. I want to raise that up by 10 points. And take the font size down to 40. And that makes a great substitute. With your selection tool, pick up and select the items that we've just created, the word tarts and the banner and object group, and then do the same thing with smart and the banner, and group again. I do have another refinement that I really would like to do. I did not get Smart Tarts centered as well as I should have in the banner. So I am going to double click on this to get this into an isolation and use my arrow key to draw parts down. Let's get into the group. And I want to drop 1, 2 arrow widths down, and then I'm going to go back out of that, double click on this group, and again 2 arrows down so that I've moved them both at the same rate, but that centers both of those a little bit better. And if I click the arrow out, I am back to my normal view again. I need to go into my layer panels, make sure my side one is the active panel, and I'm going to next apply a warp effect. I want to select the group, and I am going to go to Effect and select Warp and select Arc. We move the dialog box over to the side. We're going to change from Arc to Arch, and the object's left and right edges are not affected. We're going to bring the bend down. We're actually going to drop it down to a negative 32 degrees. In this instance, it's probably easier to type in, and we're going to say OK to apply the warp. In your Layers panel, you're going to expand both side 1 and side 2, and then you're going to click and press your Alt button, and you're going to select the target icon. This is for your appearance attributes. We're going to click that, hold down your Alt key, and drag up to the side 2 group, which is going to actually clone the attribute onto the other selected object. Now, selecting the group in the side 2 layer, you're going to open up your appearance panel and double click on the warp options box, and we're going to change this from a negative 32 to a positive 32. Click off of that so you can see the change has been reflected, and then we can say OK. Make sure you save this at this point, and then we're going to create a 3D effect. 3D allows you to give an object that's two-dimensional a look of depth. You can change an object's rotation along 3 different axes, or you can use an extrusion setting to pull or extrude an object in 3 directions. You can also control the appearance of 3D objects with lighting, shading, and other properties. We're going to select the Smart group and go to Effects, 3D, Extrude and Bevel. Make sure you activate Preview. You can experiment with this to see the changes. Give it time because it's a lot for the computer to have to work with. And when you're done, you can change the x-axis to 20 degrees, change the y-axis to 0, and the z to 0. Leave your perspective at 0 and change the extrude depth to 50 points if that's not where it is. And then click OK to apply that. Select the banner group on panel 2 and go up to Effect and select Apply, Extrude and Bevel. That's going to apply the last settings we did for the other side, and then use your arrow keys to line the banner up because it may have shifted a little bit. So you're just going to have to visually correct for that shift. And then you can save